In this video, we will explain what a parallel key change or modulation is and how to use them in your songwriting. At the end of the video, we will apply what is taught to use a parallel key change in an existing song. In its simplest form, a song is constructed with notes from a scale. These notes will be used to create the chords and melody in the song. A song that uses the notes from a particular scale is said to be in the key of that scale. For example, a song that uses the notes from the C major scale is in the key of C major. The C major scale has the notes C, D, E, F, G, A and B. The C natural minor scale has the notes C, D, E flat, F, G, A flat and B flat. It is worth being aware that there is more than one minor scale. We won't go into detail about this here, but where we mention the minor scale, we are referring to the natural minor scale. This is also known as the Aeolian mode or the sixth mode of the major scale. You can see that both scales start on the same note. This is called the root note or tonic note. Because of this, these two scales are said to be parallel scales. The C major scale is the parallel major scale of the C minor scale. Equally, the C minor scale is the parallel minor scale of the C major scale. We know that a key refers to the scale that a song is created from, so you can also have parallel keys. Therefore, the parallel key of C major is C minor, and vice versa. The major or minor element of a key is referred to as its tonality. In order to build a song, we will need some chords. Chords in the key, also known as triads, are created by each using 3 notes from the relevant scale. They are labelled with the Roman numerals, which are useful in songwriting because they allow you to use a chord progression in any key and see the function or role of each chord. If we move within a song from the chords in one key to another set of chords from a different key, we call it a key change. This move is also known as a modulation. If you would like a longer introduction to changing key, then check out our video in the description below. Let's now look at the chords in our parallel C keys. The C major key has the chords 1 C major, 2 D minor, 3 E minor, 4 F major, 5 G major, 6 A minor and 7 B diminished. The C minor key has the chords 1 C minor, 2 D diminished, 3 E flat major, 4 F minor, 5 G minor, 6 A flat major and 7 B flat major. You can see that despite having the same root or tonic note in the scale, these two parallel keys do not have any chords in common. So now we know what parallel keys are and that they have different sets of chords. But how do we write a parallel modulation for a song? A common way to modulate is by using common chords between the two keys. But we know that parallel keys have no chords in common. So what do we do in this situation? Let's start by moving from major to parallel minor to look at modulation techniques. Moving from a major key to its parallel minor has a dark and gloomy effect, which can sound like the walls of the song are closing in. This can provide a useful sad contrast within an existing major key song. One of the most important relationships in major key songs is between the 5 chord and the 1 chord. Moving from 5 to 1 is called a perfect cadence. Playing this chord change will provide a very strong feeling of returning home. By doing so, it will reinforce the major key feeling. You can see that the major 5 chord only appears in our major key chords. In the parallel minor, the 5 chord is a minor chord. The minor 5 chord has a weaker effect in a minor key and doesn't pull us as strongly to the tonic or 1 chord. This is because of the notes that make up our minor 5 chord. Let's look at a 5 to 1 change in the key of C major to demonstrate this. The 5 chord in the key of C major is G major. The G major chord has the notes G, B and D. The C major chord has the notes C, E and G. Look at the middle note or third note in the G major chord. It is B. This is the closest note to the root or tonic of C major. It is only half a step or a semitone away from it. This creates the strong pull or desire to resolve that we hear in the perfect cadence. Now let's do the same again in the key of C minor. The 5 chord is G minor. The G minor chord has the notes G, B flat and D. The middle note is now called a flat or minor third note, and in the G minor chord it is B flat. We've got links in the description if you would like to learn more about chord construction. The B flat note is a whole step or tone away from the root or tonic of the 1 chord C minor, so we are twice the distance away from the tonic as we were in C major. This is why the sense of cadence is much weaker. The minor third note isn't demanding we move to the tonic as strongly as the third note did. So a common songwriting technique is to change this chord to a major chord. In our example, if we change G minor to G major, the only note that changes is the flat or minor third, moving it up half a step or semitone and recreating the effect we had in the major key with the perfect cadence. You could also think of this major 5 chord as a borrowed chord. We have borrowed it from the parallel major key. By using this major 5 chord, we have a powerful bridge between our major and minor keys. Time for an example. We'll begin with the very popular 1-5-6-4 progression in the key of C major. On the second repeat, we will swap the 5 and 4 chords around, so we end on bar 8 with the major 5 chord we discussed earlier. This will be our link to the parallel C minor key. We'll then use a 1-5-6-4 progression in our parallel minor key. Listen out for the gloomy minor change when we modulate. Another widely used technique is to play the major 5 chord as a dominant 7th chord. This further intensifies the perfect cadence effect. We have a video all about dominant 7th chords in the description below for further details about this. We'll change the 5 chord in bar 8 to a dominant 7th to strongly draw us into the parallel minor key. If we swap the minor 5 and 4 chords around this time and change the 5 chord to a major 5 dominant 7th, you'll hear how they sound in a minor key as well. The technique of using borrowed chords is widely deployed by songwriters. This allows a song in a major key to use a wider palette of chords and therefore reduce monotony. A common candidate for this is what's known as the flat 6 chord. In the key of C major, the 6th chord is A minor. If we take the root note of this chord, A, and drop it by half a step, then it becomes A flat. If we construct a major chord with the root note of A flat, then we have an A flat major chord. So the flat 6 Roman numeral shows us that we have flattened the root note of the 6 minor chord and created a major chord from this. If you remember from earlier, A flat major is the 6th chord in the key of C minor, so this presents us with a new opportunity to change to the parallel key. This will work with any major key. The rule is always the same. The flat 6th chord of a major key is the 6th chord of its parallel minor key. If you'd like more help with flattened degree chords, we have a couple of videos in the description below. Let's use the flat 6 chord in our previous progression. We'll make a simple tweak to bars 6 to 8. The 5 chord isn't needed for our modulation, so we will replace it with the flat 6 and put the 4 chord before this. Once we've changed to the parallel minor, we'll keep everything the same, including the major 5 dominant 7th chords. Listen to how the 6 chords sound in the minor key part of the song, compared to at the end of the major key section. Two other commonly used flattened degree chords in a major key are flat 3 and flat 7. Their construction works in the same way as we described with the flat 6 chord. The videos in the description will give you the full lowdown on these, but for now just know that the flat 3 chord in a major key is the same as the 3 chord in the parallel minor key, and the flat 7 chord is the same as the 7 chord. As before, you can also think of these as borrowed chords from the parallel minor key. Let's use them in our previous example. This time we will put these chords in bars 7 and 8 to create our modulation to the parallel minor key and lead into them with the 4 chord. We've looked at moving from major to parallel minor. Now let's reverse the situation and move from minor to parallel major. Where changing from major to parallel minor felt gloomy or closing in, the opposite is true for moving from minor to parallel major. It brightens up the song like a ray of sunshine. It feels like the song is opening up in front of us. We'll use the same keys as before for examples, C minor and C major. The easiest and strongest way to move from minor to parallel major is to use our major 5 chord again. The perfect cadence will firmly set us up in the parallel major after the modulation. You can also use the dominant 7th 5 chord as before to strengthen this. We'll stick with the 1, 5, 6, 4 progression. On the second repeat in bars 5 to 8, we will swap the 4 and 5 chords around. The 5 chord in bar 8 will become a major dominant 7th chord to create our strong cadence to the parallel major key. Once in the major key, we will repeat the basic 1, 5, 6, 4 progression twice. Listen to the difference compared to modulating from major to parallel minor. We can also use the flattened degree chords we saw earlier to modulate. Of course, in a minor key they are no longer flattened degree chords and are just basic chords in the key. Let's use the 6th chord for our modulation this time. We discussed the perfect cadence earlier. There is also another common cadence which is called the plagial cadence. This is when we move from the 4 chord to the 1 chord. It is found in both major and minor keys. We can use this to move from the minor key to the parallel major. We'll give you 2 examples here. First in bar 8 we will use the minor 4 chord. Then in bar 16 we will use the major 5 dominant 7th chord to take us back to the C minor key. In bar 24 we will use the major 4 chord. Listen to the difference the major 4 chord gives the modulation compared to the minor 4. We've explained the basic mechanics of the parallel modulation, and you should be able to use it in a few different ways. The only problem with our examples so far is they've only used simple chord progressions that start on the one chord of their respective keys. As you may be aware, this is not the norm throughout a song. To provide a more real-world example, we will start with the song we created in our major key song masterclass. If you'd like to see the reasoning behind its structure, check out the masterclass video we made for it. We'll give you the link at the end of this video. Let's listen to the original song. The first thing to note is that the song is in the key of G major. Don't panic, as everything we learn applies to any major key. We simply follow the same rules for the relevant Roman numerals, and it will work in exactly the same way. Because parallel keys are simple to understand, we know that the parallel minor of our G major key will be the key of G minor. The song has the structure intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. The two most obvious candidates for a key change would be the bridge or the final chorus. This is because later on in songs, after a few repeats, it tends to be where we want to move the song on somewhere new and reduce monotony. The use of inversions in the bridge already provides an interesting contrast to the rest of the song. It also ends on the major 5 chord in bar 44. As we discussed earlier, this major 5 chord can be used to modulate to the parallel minor key. So we'll just change it to a dominant 7th chord, and then we can play our final chorus in the key of G minor. If you were listening to the original closely, or have seen our explainer video, you will know that the first half of the final chorus has different chords. Because we are changing key for our final chorus now, we will change it to 2 repeats of 1, 3, 4, 5. This preserves the Roman numeral structure from the major key choruses. We will continue to utilise the major 5 dominant 7th chord from the modulation in our minor key chorus to provide a nice consistency at the end of each 4-bar sequence. We still end on the G major chord, which provides a nice perfect cadence with the final major 5 chord of the chorus. See how many considerations there are when preparing even a simple parallel key change in your song. The best approach is to experiment with it in your own songwriting, and if it doesn't give your song what you think it needs, then don't worry about it. It is simply a single tool in the songwriting toolkit. Let's listen to our revised song to see how it now sounds. Learn how to write a major key song from start to finish by watching the video on screen now.